We're going to graph a transformation of the tangent graph. It's helpful if you draw the asymptotes first. That's going to be based on your period and your phase shifts. The second thing you could do is your middle points, and that's going to be based on your vertical shifts. And then your first and third quarter points, that is going to be affected by your stretch factor and your reflection. Let's look at this example. The negative reflects it. So normally with the parent function for tangent, it's increasing, which means our graph is going to be decreasing if it's reflected. Tangent of 1/2 x, so the period is normally pi, but now we have to divide that period by our b value, which is 1/2. With sine and cosine, you do 2 pi over b to find the period. Tangent, the parent function's period, is pi, so we're going to be doing pi over b. We can multiply both by 2. We get 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi. The 2, that would normally be our amplitude, but remember there's no amplitude, so that's going to be our stretch factor. And then the plus 3 is a vertical shift by 3. Let's start by drawing the asymptotes. Remember, the asymptotes don't start right at 0 unless there's a phase shift for tangent. It starts half of your period to the left and half of the period to the right. For example, the parent function, if the period is pi, it went half the period, or pi over 2, to the left and half of it to the right, pi over 2 to the right. So if our period is 2 pi, we're going to go pi to the left and pi to the right. The y-axis is not an asymptote. So total this length is 2 pi. Then we're going to do the middle points. It's shifted up 3. So we're going to draw a point there. And finally, we can do the first and third quarter points. The stretch factor is 2. So our first quarter point, halfway between our asymptote and the midpoint, which was on this line, is going to be somewhere on here. And then the third quarter is going to be somewhere on this line at pi over 2. It goes up 2 and down 2 from the midline. So if the midline is here at 3, and we know that it needs to decrease because it's reflected, it needs to count up 2, and then it'll be down 2. Then as we continue the graph, we can count from the first asymptote to the second one, 8. So at another 8, there's going to be another asymptote. We can draw the midpoint up at 3, and the first quarter point up 2, and the third quarter point down 2.